Good afternoon. Dr. Judith here. Just sharing with a friend for quite a while, a couple hours in fact, about the goodness of God. About how the stories in the Bible are here to teach us how to respond to the same things that they responded. That the mistakes that they made we can avoid. That if we read the stories and let the Holy Spirit guide us as we read them, the revelations that we need in our own lives will be revealed to us. It is a wonderful and just, I almost said sparkling time. And I'll say that, it's a sparkling time. It's a time for me right now of just awesomeness, watching the Lord work. One of the things that this gentleman and I was sharing about the Lord was about Abraham, and he took Isaac up to the mountain. And I've talked about this on my thoughts for the day before, but this was maybe a little different spin or a little bit more on the story of Abraham and Isaac, his son. If you remember, when Abraham was going up to Mount Moriah, when he was taking his son up there to be obedient to the Lord and to sacrifice him as he was instructed, he said to the young men that his workers, I would assume, he said to them, wait here at the bottom of the mountain. He said, wait here while the lad and I go up to the mountain. And in saying that, it tells me that Abraham knew somehow that God would provide, that he would not be expected to really sacrifice his son. But the key of the story of Abraham and Isaac and the sacrifice is, as most of the stories in the Old and the New Testament, it's about obedience. It's about when we do things that he has told us to do. The problem is that we want to understand before we do. And we want to get the idea first. And he's saying real trust doesn't know ahead of time. Real obedience doesn't have to be, nothing has to be proven when you really trust. You'll say, okay, Dad, okay, Father, I trust you. I'll do what you said because you're a father and because I've trusted you before and I remember what you did before, so I'm going to trust you again. That's what God said to Abraham. That's what he's saying to all of us. Trust me. And even though Abraham was going up with the equipment to take his own son's life, he was honoring God. He was showing confidence, and he was also showing confidence to a certain degree in his trust in the Lord by saying, we, the lad and I, will be back. My God, what confidence. That though he was told to do this, he had the confidence. Remember that God basically said to you, you'll be father of many nations. He could not have become a father of many nations unless he had an heir. He had to have an heir. Ishmael could not be his heir because he was from the bondwoman. But Isaac was from him and Abraham. So Isaac was entitled to be the heir. He was the one that God had selected to be the heir. And even though God had said that, he said, I want you to sacrifice him. But remember, God knows our hearts. God knows who we are. And so in that time of testing for Abraham, he was saying, do you trust me? Do you trust me? Yes, I know I'd make you father of many nations, and I still plan to do that. But would you trust me anyway? And Abraham, I believe, even in sadness perhaps, even in fear and anxiety, said, I'll go anyway. I'll be obedient to what my father has asked me and told me to do. And so it reminds me that even when we get anxious, even when things get difficult, go anyway. Do what the Father's told you to do. And so he goes up there, trusting God, despite what he's called to do. He goes up there with the attitude that obedience is better than sacrifice. Was he necessarily thinking that way? I don't know. But for sure, it's because of his relationship with the Lord why he could trust him. And why, despite what Isaac meant to him, this is a child of his latter years. This is a child of promise. This is a child that was not expected of a man who was so old, from a wife who was so old. But Abraham also remembered that God promised that he'd be the father of many nations. So on some level, Abraham knew God had something up his sleeve. He was going to turn around, he was going to do a little diversion, he was going to do just a little slight turn that would change the whole of history and certainly change the life of Abraham and Isaac. So despite the circumstances, despite the possibility that he could really have to take his son's physical life, Abraham went. Despite what he saw around him, despite what would have made him feel, my God, I'm going to murder my own child? I'm going to give up my own the child that I've waited so long for. Ishmael didn't work out because he was the child of the wrong mother. Not the mother that he should have had, not the one that God wanted for him. And despite that, Abraham went. How many times have we failed to go? Because we thought if we went, we'd lose what we thought we could never live without. We failed to go because what we thought we needed and was important to us was more important than what God said. How many times? I know I have. Many times. But I want to tell you the good news is that the less I go the more I trust him. Unless he sends me. I don't run away anymore. I don't disobey anymore. I ask him for guidance in the smallest of things. Because I've learned to trust him. I've learned to have confidence that despite how things look around me, despite how bad things look, despite how the threats are against me and the waters seem so deep and murky, that he's got a plan, and all I need to do is go up to the mountain. All I need to do is trust him sufficiently to get there. He didn't say, once you get there, and after you've done what I told you to do, figure out the rest of it. He doesn't say that. He says, go and do what I told you to do. And what he's looking at is our hearts. Do you trust me enough to go? Do you trust me? He says, if you can be ruler over little, I'll make you rule over much. So Abraham was to become the father of many nations. In order to be father of many nations, God had to show him that God could trust him. If I can trust you to give up your son, if I can trust you to do this, then I can trust you to do that much. And so in my own life, I apply this story. That God has led me through the wilderness for 60 years. But more powerfully, in the last 4 years, I've come to know him. I've come to love him. I've come to worship and adore him. I've come to learn more of him. And as a result, learn more of me. And I've gone up to the mountain. And I have trusted him despite how the circumstances looked. I've trusted him despite how I've been jeered. And I've been told I'm foolish. I've trusted him despite the fact that everything looks kind of funny. Not good funny. Not ha-ha funny. And I've gone up anyway. I'm on top of that mountain right now. By the grace of God, I'm on top of that mountain right now. And just as I drew my hand to sacrifice what? My dreams, my hopes, the ones he placed in me. He said, Judith, still your hand. My God. He said, still your hand. He says, I want you to know that I'm going to send you to do my will. That I've got great things for you to do on my behalf. Still your hand, Judith. Do not destroy the dream that I placed in your heart. It's not Isaac, although he was a form of a dream. He has told me, once I got to the top of the mountain, and when I raised the dagger to kill my dreams, he says, no. Now, I've seen your heart. I've tested you. And you have come out looking more like me. And your scent is more like me. So now I'm going to make you ruler over much. It is no secret what God can do. What He has done for others, He'll do for you. I've learned that what He did for Abraham and Isaac, He's doing for me. And though Isaac and Jacob's journey to the top of the mountain might have appeared crazy and wild and foolish and ignorant or whatever, when they came back down, I am sure many were astonished, because they went up on instructions from the Lord and they came back down on instructions from Him. And so too is my life. I've gone up to the mountain to execute His instructions, and He has sent me back down. My dreams are intact, and He has had His way. Until next time, this has been Dr. Judith. Take care and God bless.